taking risks. It's what drives us. It's what pushes me to jump out of planes, off buildings. And it's what pushes business founders and entrepreneurs to seek out and forge new paths. This show is all about how the leaders of every corner of the business world identify, assess, prepare, and overcome risk, turning their greatest challenge into their greatest reward. I'm Jeb Corliss, and this is Taking the Lead. Oh hey, like my new sparring gloves? They're made by TENSHO. Breaking a sweat almost every day puts me in the right headspace. Boxing in particular is incredible exercise for the mind and body, but an hour of punching can do hell to your hands. TENSHO gloves have been a game changer. They're a new kind of combat glove with a focused redesign on flexibility and support. Today I'm meeting with the founders of TENSHO, brothers Adam and Kevin Johnson, to learn what it took to turn a passion for hand-to-hand combat into a knockout business. These are TENSHO, a reimagined boxing glove at the core of the groundbreaking business founded by brothers Adam and Kevin Johnson. Constructed with genuine buffalo leather, a custom latex foam, reinforced stitching, and two-sided wrist protection, these TENSHO gloves, perfect for boxing or kickboxing, are completely disrupting the world of combat sports and protecting our hands along the way. The word TENSHO actually comes from a Japanese phrase that translates to revolving hands, or continuous flowing movement of one's palms when practicing martial arts. I'm curious to learn how Adam and Kevin incorporate this principle of TENSHO, or continuous flow, into their lives and their business every day. Let's meet the makers of TENSHO. Okay, Adam and Kevin, welcome to the show. I'm super interested in figuring out what makes you guys tick, where you come from, and why you decided to found a company which may be one of the most terrifying things I can imagine. So first I want to get to know a little bit about, you guys are brothers, right? So how old were you guys when you started doing martial arts? And I would assume that your older brother was the one who started that, right?
We actually started at the same time. I mean, Adam was
Really?
10, I was 4.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it was very, very early on for us.
I mean, we were gym rats. We were always there, but when we weren't, we practiced at home. We watched videos. Even from a pop culture perspective, growing up during the era of cheesy martial arts films and the Ninja Turtles. So that was always part of our identity.
But one question too is you're having an older brother who is so much bigger than you, and obviously he was probably your sparring partner quite often. I'd have to assume that made you become really strong really fast in order to kind of hold your own against him.
But he actually is a lot bigger than me too. I mean, Adam still is about 5 inches plus and 50 pounds on a good day.
Really? He's that much bigger than you? Jesus.
Adam's a pretty big guy. I'm faster than him though, so that's where it evens out.
Usually we say whatever he doesn't make up in size, he's slow too. So don't let it fool you.
I went to Notre Dame. Was in the business school, so I actually ended up studying accounting.
Well, hey, that's important. You didn't know how numbers work. That's
I
one
figured
of the most important things to learn in life.
I ended up back in Chicago at Deloitte, which is one of the largest firms in the world, working with pretty big companies.
So what was your next step? Once you decided, okay, I'm done with this, I want to move on, what was the next place you decided to go?
So it was an interesting time because that was right in the 08-09 financial crisis. So
scary time.
It was a tough time to be looking to either get a new job or switch careers. So, but I did end up taking a job at Orbitz, the online travel site.
Oh, that's a great company. I've been using them for 20 years. They're amazing.
Orbitz was at least my first experience at a consumer-facing brand where it's I know Orbitz. I book travel with Orbitz, so I kind of get that. So, I went on to Orbitz, had a good experience there as well.
And then your next step, what was because there's obviously a journey in how you're coming to where you're going to start your own company. What was the next job that kind of took you to that next level?
Yeah, the next job. So things were going well at Orbitz, and So Adam and I actually have a friend that his name's Kevin Price. He was a co-founder of a business called Trunk Club. So
Okay.
Trunk Club was a first men's clothing service, one of the first at-home try-on model businesses back in 2009 when they started, and randomly reached out to me. They just raised some money. They're looking for some help on the accounting and finance side, and that's where I'm like, oh wow, startups, is that actually something for me?
Did it kind of frighten you a little bit to like move into something that's a little more unstable?
I think it probably should have, but to be honest, it didn't. As soon as
Really?
I talked to Kevin, I just had this. It was definitely like a trust your gut type situation. As soon as I learned more about the business and met the team, it was actually pretty easy decision. I think that it was great. I mean, it was very foundational to my career. It really, was the first time I was able to see a broad view of how a business works, how a digital innovative business works. So beyond just the finance, like getting involved and working with the technology teams and the operations teams, it was really exciting. In that company, it was like joining a rocket ship. It was.
You were also part of the sale of that company that sold to
Yeah.
another larger company, right? So you learned a lot about the process of what it is to sell a startup and make it, really take that next step to making it an actual massive success.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we were bought by Nordstrom in 2014. So that was a few years into me being there, 5 years in for the business. It was very high stress, but it was a great experience getting through the sale, and then the post sale kind of integration with Nordstrom as your new parent company. Was learned a lot at that point too.
It's quite interesting actually seeing your journey, because it seems like each step was like a little building block in giving you the education necessary even after college, right? It seems like you actually learned more when you left college and started working and actually started building like these ideas of like how you do a startup, how you exit the startup, how you sell a startup, how you transition a startup.
I feel like each step too, I learned a little bit more about like what I thought might have been a ceiling for me personally, or I should say professionally. It's not necessarily just a confidence thing. It's an education thing. It's not, me and Adam, the way we grew up, we didn't have anyone that was guiding us towards, hey, here's what you do in college to major and get this job. Like, we had very, very supportive parents who put us through college, and the education of, hey, I go to Trunk Club and I meet all these great people who have either built businesses in the past or work in these different functions. Like, all of a sudden you could feel your mind almost expanding a little bit on, oh, there's these other options out there for us. So definitely learned a lot. I feel like I learned more in the last year and a half of being at Trunk Club than the first 4.5 years for sure. It was definitely interesting scaling a business to that level, and it definitely came with its challenges. But starting to think about what is next, also going through life change. I was getting married at the time.
That changes things.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden more pressure is put on you because now you're thinking about starting a family and you have to make sure that you can, that all of a sudden makes things a little more tangible.
To be honest, it was kind of the opposite in terms of, my wife came from a entrepreneurial business-based setting as well. And where our heads were going more so was not immediately jump into starting a family, but if we were going to think outside the box, this was the time to do it. And that's when I started talking with the team at Movement Watches. Very unique story. Two younger guys dropped out of school, successful Indiegogo campaign, building a business selling very cool watches.
Okay.
And
so they financed through Indiegogo.
Financed through Indiegogo, zero outside money, and we're scaling this business well towards $100 million revenue when I got connected to them. So it's just like, I feel like if you're doing stuff where it's, it's like 10, 15% scary and 85% exciting, that for me that formula's worked. Maybe it's sometimes 50-50, but no, definitely was interesting to think about that when we had a lot of life change going on too. But
yeah,
ended up taking the leap, moving to LA with my wife as we started our married life together in a new state, and super bittersweet, like really tough leaving family, really tough. I mean, even to this day, I'm out here in LA, and it's tough being away from Adam and my parents and the rest of the crew and my nieces, and yeah, definitely been a great experience out here. We've really enjoyed our time out here. And
okay, Movement Watches. And how long did you work with them before you started thinking, hey, maybe I want to start my own?
I was brought on. So now I'd been through the Trunk Club Nordstrom deal. Didn't lead it by any means, but was a supportive.
But you learned from it. Like, it was
Yeah,
something you're a
learned a
part of
lot.
and you learned. Yeah.
Learned a lot from it. So, I was graduating up to taking on a role where it was my job to support the founders of movements and their chief marketing officer and securing growth capital. So, and building out the back office team. So it's quite a bit about fundraising and also about building out a lot of the infrastructure to help facilitate even more growth for that team. So, and we ended up pivoting the process to actually selling the business. So we sold to Movado in 2018, late 2018, for it's a $100 million exit. And it was great. I mean, it was just very, very great fit with the Movado team and how they structure things and just where the movement brand kind of fit in. So that deal went down about a year into my time at Movement. So for me, in terms of your question on, well, when did you start getting your own entrepreneurial itch and think about, moving on to TENSHO, as soon as we kind of closed that deal, I was very tunnel vision. Like, I need to get this deal we're like, we want to do this. This makes the most sense for employees, shareholders, owners, everyone. Just became pretty clear to me that I wanted to stick around to help support the integration, but I wasn't going to stick around a super long time, 3, 4, 5 years, at Trunk Club. And that's where really I'm just like, you know what? I've been through a couple of these deals now. There's a lot of hard work, timing, luck that goes into being associated with these things. But I feel like I've learned enough now where it's like, you know what? Adam and I have talked about doing something together for a really long time. This is the time to do it.
Once you're making this transition, you're having these thoughts that you want to start your own company. I want to know a little bit about what made you decide to do the type of company that you did, and what made you, obviously you'd said that you really wanted to have your brother involved, you want to do it together. So explain that process to me.
No, actually, so Adam and I, Adam being entrepreneurial himself and starting his own security business, and, my experience with being a Trunk Club and movement as startups, we felt like we had a lot of great overlapping strengths. Kind of initially thought it'd be something related to apparel. I just came from movement, which was, accessories, as a Trunk Club, which was men's, and then eventually women's apparel. So that was kind of what was circling in the back of my mind. But I think I realized that it had to be something I was super passionate about, because my biggest fear with starting something myself or with Adam was not failing. It was getting bored. We're getting tired. We're getting worn out.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So when that kind of became a bigger kind of, we have to do something in combat sports. It has to be built on just this very foundational element of what we've done. And, for me and Adam, we grew up training in the sport. Like, we wanted to build stuff that we wanted. We wanted to build something that was for us as the customer in mind, as, young gym rats, as people that stuck with it as adults. So,
well, and that's really smart. The idea is, it's like you see a product, you're like, wow, I wish this product was like this or could do this. How do we improve it so it makes our experience better? And then you're actually in the mind of your customer because you are your customer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for us, looking at combat sports equipment, some of it didn't just speak to us from, a brand or an aesthetic standpoint. And then on the flip side in the space, you see a lot of newer wave brands that maybe were over the top branding, at least from our point of view, a lot of flames and dragons and spiders and snakes and stuff like that. Yeah. And there's a space for that. People like that stuff. It just wasn't us. That wasn't our aesthetic. We felt like there was white space for, something super sleek and modern, but like high quality. That's when we started thinking about combat sports gear as the desired market. And, the name TENSHO is actually, I think, one of the first things that we kind of figured out.
Okay, why did you choose the name TENSHO? What is it about that word that has meaning for your company?
Sure. So TENSHO translates in Japanese as revolving hands or rotating palms. Okay. So it's actually, when we trained in martial arts as kids, you learn these things called katas. It's like the martial arts version of a dance, like a sequence dance. One of the requirements is to learn all these different organized forms. And one of them was called, they all have their different names. One was called TENSHO. And it's because of the movements. It was a little bit more smoother. The hand movements were a little different, and just something short and sweet. And the 10 in it, I'm a numbers guy. We are a combat sports brand. Our initial assortment actually gears towards boxing, traditional boxing training. And of course, we're tailoring products for Muay Thai and MMA. So that whole like martial arts element, we don't necessarily put it front and center in terms of how we brand, what the brand is, but it's super, super meaningful for me and Adam in terms of our roots, why we started training, why we started the business, and it's short and sweet. So,
Okay. I think that's amazing. And Adam, like, where is your place? Like when he called you and started talking to you about this, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking? How did you feel about being part of this project?
Well, it was really exciting. And as Kevin had mentioned before, the idea of being able to work with my brother that, was able to capture our passion was really, really cool and an exciting concept. So really the product development, establishing our product roadmap, and then on the business development and the relationship side of things, we have a really strong network because we've been around combat sports most of our lives.
So when it came to actually the manufacturing process and creating the quality of your product, like how did you guys envision finding the perfect way to develop and build and design these things?
Well, you know what? I'll start with it, and then I'll kick it over to Kevin, to talk more about the design. But really, it's taking our network, our relationships, and then quite honestly, from a function perspective with us, and just as we work through the design elements, as we went to production for our initial samplings, is really taking them to work them out and doing bag work and doing pad work and sparring with them and kind of going back to our roots of just kind of banging with them and
well,
really
that's what's good about having
like
30 plus years experience yourselves is you can actually put them on and
Absolutely.
know instantly, hey, these are good gloves. Like I bet you the moment that you guys built your first set that was like super quality and you started punching, you were like, ooh.
I'd go in one of the gyms that I train at, like some of our good friends are coaches in the Chicago area, and just really putting some work in and seeing how my hands felt. And, having those discussions and sharing feedback and making enhancements was a really interesting process.
I still remember the first prototype we got and just literally the first time sliding my hand in it. And it's funny because it's one of those things you work on the function oftentimes first before, especially at that stage with our literally first product, before you get into the aesthetics of it. So any normal person would look at this glove that's not branded in a weird color, that's not our final color, and think that it isn't anything important. But for us, the first time sliding your hand in it, it's like, oh, we're on the right track. Like this is exactly what we're thinking about in terms of more snug contoured fits and the types of materials in it. So we never wanted to do TENSHO at all if it didn't mean we weren't building products from scratch with our articulated point of view on form and function.
So now that you're at this place with your company, what's your vision for the future? Where are you thinking of going? What do you want to do?
Sure. So, for us, we have a great initial assortment, but we have big plans in terms of our product roadmap. We have a lot of white space that we need to fill up in terms of not just our initial products that are more boxing focused, but having a full line of boxing, Muay Thai, MMA-based equipment. So definitely, the product roadmap's a huge part of that. We're actually investing quite a bit in our apparel line as well. So we did come out with initial training tops. Even those, our tees and tanks, we built those from scratch too. Those are all, custom cuts, custom fabrics. So, just being able to put out a full line of training apparel as well. And
what makes you choose the fabric? What part of the fabric is important? Do you want it to be sweat wicking? Do you care if it what's behind the fabric that makes you choose it?
Our initial training tops are actually a micro modal and Supima cotton mix. So it's the micro modal, you get some softness, some stretchiness to it, but the Supima where you kind of get this breathable but strong and durable type fabric. So that kind of mix is part of us having a top that is something that we'd feel comfortable wearing to the gym or just out and about.
We want to kind of reinvent some things in this space. It's very, especially when you look at like boxing. If you look at kickboxing and MMA, there's a very specific way things have been done, and what we want to do is to build a community around this and to support our athletes. So for us to be able to build a community and support in those partnerships here is critical to what we do.
It seems like starting your own startup would be just absolutely terrifying for someone like myself. I mean, I jump off buildings and stuff, and I know a little bit about fear, but I don't know, the idea of especially when you got a family and you've got kids, I mean, I can't even imagine, like, how did that feel? Like, did you have any reservations about it, or were you just, you done the steps, you done the training, basically? Like, not just, like, almost it's like you took your karate training and your approach in life and literally transitioned that into your learning how to do business. Because it looks like you did step by step by step, and then once you were trained, once you were prepared, once you were ready, you then pounced.
I have a really strong foundation of a family, a wife, a brother / co-founder, and, mentors and former bosses to rely on. So, while it feels scary because it feels like sometimes you're going in it alone, or it's a risk, but you have this foundation, and, not everyone could always give you the answer, but when you have that support network, it makes taking that leap just a little bit more digestible. I feel like a lot of this experience in building TENSHO has been knowing when to listen to the noise, listen to other opinions, but also like when to just lock in and have that tunnel vision on, okay, what do I need to do today? And for us, I mean, we launched a business in the middle of a pandemic. Supply chain jujitsu is my favorite term because it's so relevant to our space, but lots of curveballs thrown at us. And you're launching a business at a time where, a lot of gyms, a lot of friends who run gyms are not, in the dealing with a lot of challenges, right?
Yeah,
so
they weren't even allowed to be open. Yeah.
Ultimately, I feel like we've been able to navigate the uncertainty. We're as excited as ever. We're almost a year in from our initial soft launch, and we have a lot of work cut out for us. It's not easy. When you're starting a new business, it's the cards are sometimes stacked against you, but if you work hard enough, you have the right network, you have the right playbook. So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, it's a good extra focus. Focusing on a good product that sells itself. Like that's really, if you make a good product, you don't have to do much after that. I mean,
you have a good product. I mean, that's actually something, I've never gotten super close exposure to just the nuts and bolts of building a brand and marketing it digitally, community-based marketing like that. That's difficult. That's super hard. So stuff doesn't sell itself, right? So we have to get out there. We got to, build brand awareness, build more and more of those real relationships in the gym community and the fighter community that Adam was talking about.
Yeah.
And, ultimately,
people need to know who you are. But I'll tell you what, I got your little care package.
Oh, nice.
And I got a guy, and I'll tell you what, man, I'm very impressed. They are like I said, they're like a little Ferrari on your hand. You guys created a product that seems very functional, but not just functional. They're very good looking. Like they are sleek. I am very impressed with your guys' work, and I can't wait to see what else you guys have coming down the pike.
Yeah, it's exciting. We got a lot more to come, and it's just a starting point. So, we're, I think, setting the bar high.
I want to thank you very much for being here and telling us all about it, because I think a lot of people are going to learn that you need to take steps to get to where you want to go. And you're a prime example of a person who took the proper steps throughout your life and actually used your training of karate, and it looks like that's actually transitioned into the rest of everything else you do, which is impressive. I'm very impressed with you guys.
No,
congratulations.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining me today to learn about Kevin and Adam from TENSHO and the leap they took in starting their brand. Keep tuning in to learn more about how founders and entrepreneurs are taking the leap, only on Shopflix.